Hello, welcome. Lotus here. We are talking today, if I can just adjust this, we are talking today about a couple things, but the main theme that I want to touch on has everything to do with divine timing. So, divine timing, divinely aligning. If you follow me, if you've been working with me, you know that I always bring forth that divine alignment, and that is bringing us into a higher desired wisdom and truth and alignment in all levels of our being. So that is what we're going to chat about today. Welcome. Happy to have you here. If you are into the content, if you are into the vibe, then please like and subscribe. And also, if you haven't been over to Patreon, then I would love to have you join me over there as well, either as a free member or paid member, either way. And links will be below. So when we're talking about divine aligning, as I said, we are talking about really following our soul's guidance. We're talking about following our internal intuition, our heart and soul connection, which is not necessarily negating our rational, logical intellect and our thought processes in our decisions and behaviors and choices. But what it is doing is it is allowing our embodied experience, living from the inside out, to be our guide, to tap into our soul's desire. So I like the word desire, and desire gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes, and there are reasons, there are true reasons, but it really depends on how you are using the frequency and the consciousness of desire. So for me, when I say desire, desire is that deeper soul presenced want that is aligned with the divine plan. So really, this is where we're going with this video. And I did a video, I don't know when. It's in the relationship playlist, and it's the romantic relationships and phases and stages playlist. And I was talking about trust in romantic relationships. And that video got much longer, which is no surprise, I'm sure, for anybody who pays attention to my stuff, than the intended length. But it took us through different phases and stages based on our spiritual development and personal growth development between karmic and then higher love, trust, right? Trusting our partner ideally comes from trusting self first and foremost. So over this last few months, there's been my own development, processing, and next phases and stages. So I wanted to tie that in with both our regular daily life and how we're operating as we continue to move along this path, and then how it does also tie into our relational intimacy. So trusting in the divine plan tends to be a little bit more challenging. I think a lot of us, we like the sound of that, and we recognize that there is some truth in that and some freedom in that, but really being able to surrender into that wisdom and knowing can be challenging, and then trusting in it. So when I look at and work with divine timing, divinely aligning, right? And that is aligning with our highest will. Our highest will is naturally in union with divine will, with God's will, with the will of life, with the will of love, whatever your relationship and perception is of that force of divine source. But it's the recognition that there is an intelligence that is highly active within us and in our entire existence that knows better, right? That has much more even than the eagle view. Like we might have that mouse view in the field, scarcity and survival a lot of the time. And then we've got that eagle view once we start coming into our own higher self-awareness and our soul presencing. But then there's even, right, that higher intelligence that the more that we can attune to, the more ease and grace we have in our life. And for me, my direct experience with that had been that I needed to take small steps in that aligning and really see life reflecting back to me that alignment actually worked, right? So that I could develop more faith and trust in that force and in the process of both living from that deeper surrendered feminine state and knowing when my own masculine needed to take action or be in the intellectual processes. So within the alchemical marriage, that is a very internal balancing and honing the sensitivities of all of those elemental processes that go on in our internal landscape that is highly spiritualized by the divine. So divinely aligning, inherent in it, has divine timing. So this is my new edge, right? So this is why I'm sharing about it. My new edge is trusting in divine timing. Historically, because of my strong masculine, because I have a lot of fire, and because I tend to be a doer, I have been conditioned through my own makeup and my own distortions to move through things very quickly and get very impatient when things do not happen in my time. Sometimes maybe that serves me, but in the bigger picture, it does not necessarily. So over this last year, it's been really honing and resting into the consciousness and the wisdom of divine timing. Divine timing is a consciousness of itself. Everything holds consciousness, concepts, constructs, processes, emotions, thought forms, right? Collective consciousness or consciousnesses or individual consciousness. Divine alignment means that not only am I going to have a deep faith and trust that I will be in the desire of what is for my highest good as deemed appropriate by my own higher selves, right? My multidimensional expressions and my soul that has been embodied. Because those are in tandem, always infused with divine presence, with God's presence, with that light and life and love, first and foremost. And then in that divine timing allows us the opportunity to really watch and to be very clear about our egoic programming and where our fabulous, wonderful ego that is part of our personality here on this planet, where it is purifying and harmonizing with our evolution, and where it's still operating in whatever distortions we have. So, example, mine might be very quick moving, somebody else's might be procrastination and lethargy. Mine might be doesn't really think through of consequences, of outcomes, of that's enough, right? You get the picture. Whereas somebody else's might be, thinking too much, right? Like I tend to be in the fool energy, no fear. I'm just ready to head off that cliff again and again and again. Somebody else might have more of needing to know, needing to analyze things, needing to weigh out all the pros and cons, which can be debilitating. Both of those are examples of distorted ego processes, because when we are in that deepening of divine alignment and trusting in divine timing, all of that stands back. It may not mean that we don't have thoughts of, wow, I'd rather this go faster, or I really wish I knew how this is going to play out. Doesn't mean that they're absent, but they aren't running the show. So when we are in that flow of divine timing, we're in a longer process. We get time to sit back. Our doing, whatever the doing was, has been done. And like the in-breath and out-breath, we need to learn to live within the pauses. And for some of us, the pause is not super comfortable. I'm one of those people. Some people, it's very comfortable, right? They'll live in the pause for as long as they can. But we get to recognize that there are things in process, not just for our highest good, but for the highest good of all. And divine timing, when it's allowed, is always going to take into consideration what is going to be supportive for the whole. What is going to bring that highest outcome that is going to be most beneficial for all players in the game. Now, beneficial for one may be very different than beneficial for another, right? Beneficial for me might be, wow, my divine timing is ushering in another layer of needing to purify another level or clear something else, because that is the divine timing in which that opportunity arises at the most aligned juncture. Whereas within that same highest good for all, somebody else's highest good might be a next level into more freedom, right? More clarity, more abundance, whatever that is. So we want to also be open to what does the highest good mean. And that's part of our spiritual maturity, not attaching or to only one outcome. We want to be open with that trust. We want to be developing that trust that what is right and true comes to us. That we are open to receive. I've done my part. And now I'm open to receive whatever is meant to be in the right timing. And this then becomes trusting in the divine plan. Recognizing and honing in that when I have a heart soul desire, an embodied inspiration that comes through me, that's part of the divine plan. I'm having that because it's written in my blueprint. So you might start noticing that we're tying a lot of these topics together now that we've been going through really over this last year. We're beginning to weave them and see that they are all part of the tapestry of our spiritual progress, our spiritual growth, our spiritual evolution, coming into higher expressions of ourselves and letting go of a lot of our fear-based scarcity, density that holds on to suffering. When we start recognizing the divine plan, it's really kind of fun because then we recognize, oh, like, of course, this is meant to be. Everything's playing out in perfection because our ancient future selves, not literally, but let's just say that part of the information in the blueprint, part of those codings for us, have been written. There are a myriad of potentials. There are a myriad of Yogananda used to tell me when like he was my main guide for a long time, that when I would be hesitant, when I wouldn't want to make a new step, or when I was afraid whether I could really trust what a new move would be. And he would say that there isn't a right or wrong, that one will just be a scenic route and one is a straight arrow. The scenic route will just be a right choice because there are things that haven't been healed and cleared yet. The straight line means that I'm ready to really, I may not even have to go through the density because that choice creates a very, not a different outcome, but an outcome that I can align with through deeper faith and trust. So all of this gets very subtle, hence the power of the subtle, the class that we just did last week. So what is it that we get, right, when we start really trusting in the divine plan? The benefits that come to us are greater freedom, for sure. We start to live more spaciously because we aren't trying to control the power of life within us and around us. We're not trying to manage people, places, things, situations. We're simply living from a deeper operating system of us. And we're aligning and trusting in our desires, what it is that we truly want. And we can feel when it is a deep soul desire, it usually is going to have a higher frequency quality, such as peace, such as joy, such as enthusiasm, right? Such as love, such as celebration. Even if some of the steps might be a little bit, tenuous. When we're operating just from the mind, we're stuck up here. I want this, and we start to get attached. We start to get attached to the outcome. Whereas when we have a desire that rolls out from us, that bubbles up from within us, there's a softer expression that is sort of whispering to us. We don't know all of the components of this yet. And so when we can trust in that natural unfoldment, magic happens. Life meets us, right? Life, capital L, begins organizing itself in these amazing ways that bring exactly what we need to flourish and thrive. And then the final piece of it is that's super important. This could be a whole other video, and I've got other talks on receptivity. Allowing ourselves to be receptive to the blessings. The blessings within the process, the little synchronicities, the little ahas, the little next level growth that needed to take place, and then we become aware because we're allowing divine timing to do its thing. We aren't forcing ourselves into, we could say, like, clothes that are too big for us. You see what I'm saying? Because we're trying to reach a point that we haven't organically evolved and matured into yet. And by the same token, we aren't not moving. We are not taking steps. We're in our head and the clothes are too tight and they're constricted and it's aggravating and irritating, right? So again, we've got like this spectrum of experiences, and they're all going to be unique and varied. This is why it's important that we know how we operate and what our subtler processes are, but that we're open to the blessings of each motion, of each magic, and then it becomes the magic and the perfection of our journey enriches us, and we become abundant in being in love with life, just as it is. And it doesn't mean that there won't be, like, hey, but what about, like, when is this going to happen? That's just our humanness, the divine, all of our team, they know that's just part of, like, how we grow up. And it's okay. They get that. But we don't attach to that. Because when we attach to it, then everything starts to get more muddled and we start taking the wheel, right? This whole year for me literally has been hands off the wheel. Hands off the wheel. Do not grab onto that steering wheel, right? Put a foot on the gas appropriately, but I pretty much have been hands off the wheel for quite some time, and it was a little tenuous at first. It was a little, it didn't make sense, but I kept trusting, and then what I recognized is through trusting in this process, through trusting in the divine unfoldment, and through really deepening into my connection with source love, that has grown exponentially because of the process of divine aligning, honing in, and getting many lessons in divine timing, faith and trust in that, and then opening to I don't know what the plan is, and surrendering. And boy, the freedom and the space that has been created in my brain, in my day-to-day life, in my storylines, in old emotional patterns. It's been fabulous and beautiful. So we do more of this work and more of these talks over on Patreon. These are part of our classes. These are part of the moon time, new moon, full moon activations. So if you're into this, then come on over and join us. And in the meantime, may you continue opening to your own true divine alignment, trusting in divine timing, and saying yes to the divine plan, which is part of your innate divine blueprint. All right. Blessings.